Max, you're always so sad. People are worried about you, buddy. Alright folks, this little hot rod is a 2010 Ford Mustang, and the air conditioning doesn't work. He brought it in about 3 weeks ago with the same complaint. I charged the system, but I couldn't find a leak. So that's our project for today. We need to find a slow leak in this car's air conditioning system, and that's always tricky. But we've got one thing working for us. Last time I charged the AC, I injected it with some of this Predator blood, and hopefully that will lead us to the problem.
Its blood was on the leaves.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
What are we doing? Oh yeah, we're trying to find a leak in an air conditioning system. So how do you do that? Well, the first step is you have to pressurize the system. You can't find a leak with the system empty. So you can either charge it with refrigerant, or some people like to pressurize the system with nitrogen. Just depends on what equipment you have available, I guess. And then if you have a very large leak, a lot of times you can just hear it leaking. Like if you have a hose blown or an O-ring blown out or something like that, you'll either hear or feel an actual leak. If you have kind of a medium-sized leak, a lot of times you can just look for an oil stain. Anytime that the refrigerant leaks out, it also brings with it a certain amount of oil. If you have a small leak, your options are a little more limited. You can use a sniffer like this. This is an electronic device that sucks in air through this tube, and it has some magical electronics inside that can detect hydrocarbons in tiny amounts, like parts per million. And they can work very well. They can also be extremely frustrating because you get false alarms from things like brake cleaner or even engine oil or blow-by from the engine. So you just have to be careful with these tools. Also, they have replaceable tips, and the tip affects the detecting strength of the tool. And the problem is I've never really found like a rule that tells you when to replace the tip or how often it needs to be done. So I typically replace mine every year, and yeah, that works for me. Our other option is to use a UV dye. So this is PAG oil that has the dye already mixed into it. These are packets of UV dye that you can mix with the PAG oil. So this little packet right here is enough to do up to 4 pounds of refrigerant in your system. So a typical car, I'd use about half of this. But the UV dye doesn't work by itself. You have to also have this special UV flashlight and a pair of these vintage Eric the Car Guy glasses. And these two will allow you to see the UV dye. This is an AC recovery machine built by Robinair. It's basically just a manifold gauge set, a recovery compressor, and a scale all built into one roll-around unit. We're going to use this to charge the system. We're going to put a small charge on, let's say about 3/4 of a pound. Close enough. So right now it's doing a static fill. The refrigerant inside the machine is at a little bit higher pressure than the air conditioning system on the vehicle. So it wants to flow from the machine to the vehicle, but at a certain point it's going to equalize and it's going to stall out. So it only got 0.24 pounds. So we're going to have to use the AC compressor on the car to pull the rest of the refrigerant in. So I'll close the high side, open the low side, and we'll start the engine. As soon as the compressor kicks on, you should see the low side go down, and this thing's going to count up. So it's pulling the refrigerant in now. Once it gets to 0.74, the solenoid shuts off, and we're done with the machine. I'll let the AC run for a few minutes. It works normally, the compressor cycles. It's got nice cool air out of the ducts. So everything works, we just have a leak. To see how this UV dye works, I'm going to fit you with your Eric the Car Guy glasses. If I shine the UV light, you should see kind of a phosphorescent glow right there under the service port. You always get a little bit of dye that runs down the service port when you disconnect the hoses. And if we try the sniffer, you should also get a little hit from the sniffer under the service port. Maybe. There we go. It's one of the reasons that it's very hard to diagnose a leaking Schrader valve in a service port, because there's always dye and there's always a small leak there when the hoses are connected, so that can be very tricky. Now we just go through the whole system with our UV light and look for any spilled predator blood. The only thing we can't check with this system is the evaporator core. Yeah, buddy? Mom needs help? Yeah. I've already removed this plastic trim panel from the top of the radiator and the top radiator mount bolts so we can get access to the condenser. And I think I might have found something. Alright folks, bottom left corner of the condenser. See that right there? That little patch? I think that's going to be our leak. Come on, light. What is your problem? Right there. Okay folks, refrigerant's recovered. I'm saying this car needs a condenser.
What is it leaking?
Well, it's leaking refrigerant, but the dye is in the oil, it's in the refrigerant. So.
And would it become like crusty?
Well, but I don't know, it gets on the bugs and the bugs are crusty.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, I'm getting a second opinion.
Cause
I couldn't get the sniffer to go off on that spot. But I did get it to do it a couple days ago when I checked it out. So
it's definitely something there.
The sniffer is camera shy.
And I definitely don't think it's just a bug. It's like too much to just be a bug.
I think so too.
And then to have it here too. It's in two spots.
Alright, I agree.
Okay. Can you put like the camera through this so we can show people, or does that not really work?
I tried. We'll hope it shows up.
Oh, I hope it works for everybody.
Alright. Well, it turns out a condenser for a 2010 Mustang is not that easy to find. I got this guy, but it's for a 2009 and it's completely different. So I ended up having to order this guy directly from Denso and get it shipped in from California. But it is correct, I think. At least the ports are in the right place. I think it'll do the trick. Okay, I think we're done. That'll work. Alright folks, it's the following day, and I'm happy to report that the air conditioning is still working. So I think we got it. All right, folks, I think that's it. I appreciate you guys watching, and I apologize. There's going to be a few videos here where it feels like they were just sort of phoned in, because they were just sort of phoned in. I've gotten absolutely destroyed over the last 6 weeks or so. I really haven't had time to do any filming or editing or anything like that. Luckily, I had some big projects already in the can, and if you guys paid attention, you'll see there was a big passage of time on the Ford Ranger, the Army truck, that John Deere 2630, and the Cub Cadet oil leak. I mean, months went by from start to finish on those jobs. You'll notice that there was no corn in the beginning, and then it was 8 feet tall at the end. It just, yeah, it hasn't worked out very well for me. Plus, we had an insurance audit, and they gave me a whole laundry list of things they wanted updated and fixed and cleaned, and I had to clean the shop and take in all my scrap metal and all that kind of stuff. So on the plus side, the shop's pretty clean, but yeah, took a lot of time. Then this backhoe over here, this is the same Massey Ferguson backhoe we made a couple of videos about. I rebuilt the tilt cylinders for the loader and the swing motor for the backhoe. It was gone for a while. When he brought it back, he wanted me to rebuild every hydraulic cylinder and replace every hydraulic hose. And I did that, but it was not easy. There are no seal kits available from the dealer. All of these cylinders use V-Pack seals just like those tilt cylinders, and they're all an obsolete configuration, so everything has to be machined to fit new style seals. And then, yeah, some of them I couldn't even get. The one that's hanging from the crane here, that cylinder has a 2 1/8 inch rod, and there's basically no seals available for 2 1/8 inch anything. I asked, he said it was special order from the manufacturer. I might be able to get them in 8 weeks. Anyway, so I had to reuse the gland seals. I did put a new O-ring in, but it's not ideal. Then I got it all together, and the swing cylinder started leaking again. It actually blew out the backup ring on the bottom seal. If you remember, there's a backup ring. Well, I got the seals over here. So the new seal is a square seal with this wear ring, and then there's a backup ring that fits on top of it. The backup ring's $126. So I replaced one, but I didn't replace the other one. The one that I didn't replace, it just crumbled and fell apart, and then the seal blew out, destroyed itself. So I had to pull that back out, pull it back apart, replace the seal and backup ring on the bottom at my expense, because that was my call. And then it got even worse. When I assembled it, these are cages for the check balls. They fit underneath of the fittings for the hoses right here. And somehow I assembled that incorrectly. The cages are supposed to go in after you put the top cap back on the swing cylinder, and I put them in before I put the cap on. And in order to get that thing together, you basically have to press the thing together with big clamps because the seals are so tight. And I didn't even notice that I was pressing against these cages, and I just completely destroyed them. They're supposed to be about ½ an inch longer than what they are. I crushed them like beer cans. So I had to make those. They're of course obsolete. Then I got that done. I took it out for another shakedown, and it started leaking oil out of the boom. It would just run down the channel here, and I couldn't find where it was coming from. So I pulled the main boom cylinder back out, and I've just been checking it over here. There are no leaks that I can see. Everything's good. I replaced those hoses. I replaced the O-rings in all of these connecting tubes. I think the problem was there was a bunch of wood chips inside this boom, and when I took all the hoses and stuff apart, I soaked those wood chips with oil, and then when it sat outside in the sun, the oil basically wicked out of those wood chips and was running down the boom, and it made it look like it was leaking. So I did a bunch of work there for basically nothing. Anyway, I also replaced this loader valve. That's a brand new Prince valve with a float position. That was not easy. I used every single -10 90-degree JIC swivel fitting that was available in the country. I actually had to use 2 different sizes. See, this one's got a little bit longer leg on it than this one because I couldn't get enough of the short ones to do everything that I wanted to do. Anyway, I think it's done. The engine's leaking a lot of oil, but I think it's the front timing cover that's leaking, and in order to fix that, you basically got to take the whole thing apart. The loader would have to come off ideally to do that, but that's almost impossible with this machine because the backhoe is attached to the loader. So I think what we're going to have to do is pick the loader up, take the front, this whole front axle and everything casting off, and then possibly we can access the front cover. The rear seal leaks too. It really needs to have that one redone. Anyway, I don't have time to do it. I told him that. It's going home tomorrow, and possibly over the winter we can fix some of those other problems. The little Oliver OC46 crawler, people have been asking about that. I did get the loader on it, and I got a whole pile of hydraulic hoses there. Hopefully, within the next couple weeks we can get this functioning and maybe get it out of here. It's gone really slowly. The repair to the final drives, you know, that went pretty quickly because I had access to parts. All I really had to do was buy bearings and seals, and we had all kinds of used parts to put that together. But everything since that time has required a lot of fabrication. I had to make this whole shifter unit for the high-low box. I've had to make, what else did I have to make? Bunch of stuff for the fuel system, and when I have to do fabrication like that, it just goes really slowly. Anyway, yeah, lots of other stuff. Got a little Massey Ferguson / Iseki tractor back there we're working on. There will be a video about that. I've got a 24 valve Cummins out there that won't start. It's going to be a video about that. I don't know, lots of other stuff. All right, before we wrap it up, I've got a couple announcements. Thursday, September 30th, I will be in Louisville, Kentucky at the Utility Equipment Expo. I've been invited, along with 20 other YouTube channels, to a YouTube meet and greet event at the expo that is being hosted by Mr. Dirt Perfect, Mike Simon, and Hyundai. In no particular order, the other YouTube channels that will be there are Hamiltonville Farm, pretty excited about meeting Hank. Diesel Creek, I'm excited about seeing Matt again. Tractor Time with Tim, Let's Dig 18, Upstate Brush Control, Diggin' Life 21, Full Tilt Grading, Muddy Feet Concrete Pumping, Neil Koch Dig Drive DIY, pretty stoked about meeting Neil, I really like his channel. Harmless Farmer, and then all of the Dirt Perfect kind of running crew. So that would be Officer Hoover, DOT, Woodworking Bear, I believe is his YouTube channel, Trucker Track, SOT Metalworks, NYA Millennial, who else? Dirt Boss, Logger Wade, I don't know, I'm sure several others. I'll try to put a link to an official something. I don't really know that much about what's going to be happening at this time. I do know we're going to be there all day, not just for the meet and greet event. So if you want to meet me or my lovely wife or any of those other cool YouTubers, you can come out to the Utility Equipment Expo in Louisville, Kentucky on Thursday, September 30th. It's a trade show for, you know, construction type equipment as far as I understand it. Should be a pretty cool event. There's going to be, you know, demonstrations and tons of equipment and stuff to climb all over, and should be a good time. Also, I did have time to design some more merch, and I've got that ordered. T-shirts should be here next week, and then I've got stickers and some other stuff coming in as well. It's going to take us a little while to get the website updated. I will make another announcement when that's all sorted out, but they are coming back. We We sold out pretty quickly. The last time I made an announcement like that, I did not expect that to happen. And then summer, I was busy. I just didn't have time to really get that taken care of. So yeah, merch is coming back. Meet and greet event September 30th. That's it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. There must be at least 50 barn swallows swarming around me. They're using the edge of the cornfield as a trap. See all the bugs they've got herded over there in the corner? And they're just picking them off like sharks. Pretty cool.